Are these from seed?
Yes. So
And this is from seed, and you're taking a live specimen and grafting it on.
correct.
Got it.
So
A producing specimen, right?
So whatever you, so here, hold on. When you make rootstocks, this is a turpentine, okay? This is actually one of the very best now we know. Not for long. So, turpentines are still one of the very best for grafting, for rootstocks, for your trees. So the thing you want to do when you're making your rootstock is you want a tree that's healthy, grows well, adapted to our soil. So what a turpentine is the lowest common genetic denominator for a mango. So when the mango left India 200 years ago, 300 years ago to get here, it was, the mango looked like this when it left India, right? By the time it got to the Americas, 100 years later, it looked like this. So what happened is genetic
Mutation.
you can call, well, it's genetic degradation, but what it really is, the creation of a mutt.
Lesser.
It's not lesser, it's creating of a more adaptable thing. So what these are, because they're planting these seeds.
Remember old Florida, old timers would say turpentine, they have that
All the fiber,
turpentine.
right.
Yeah,
And
they're
the
not
flavor,
good to
right.
eat, they're turpentine.
Why Mandolin brought this here? This is from my wife, who is Brazilian. And when I married my wife, she was very Brazilian. Now she's not so much Brazilian. But no, she knows. She's not, she lost her Brazilianness. But the Brazilian would tell you that, no, I know, but you can't eat this one. All right, you want that? All right, you can go ahead. There you go. So, so basically, as you keep planting something from seed, and they keep selfing, it genetically goes down to this thing.
Okay.
So that's the turpentine from the Americas. This is the same thing from Africa. So in Africa, the lowest common denominator looks like this. You can use both of them for rootstock. I use sabers, and I use turpentines, and I use other things as rootstock. But the bottom line is you need something that is adapted to our soil. And what we do when we're planting, you're too good to eat the pieces of that, aren't you?
Not big enough.
He's not dumb, is he? So, this is actually the way you can hurt yourself very badly with mangoes. So you gotta be careful doing this.
Talk about slipping.
You can let them dry a little bit.
You can. But I grew up cleaning turpentine seeds all the time, and
You can use a shutter.
you can do, well, they're actually, we used to make machines to do this.
Perfect.
Yeah, and we were pretty good at this. Nowadays, all the turpentines that are made like at Garysville's nursery, all the seeds come in from Costa Rica or from the Dominican Republic. So this stone is still pretty hard. I'm going to actually cheat a little bit and cut it off just so I'm going to show you.
Which is this one from Africa?
That's a saber.
Sabers.
So saber,
Which is the one from?
oof, I almost did get it.
Yeah.
Which is the one from Israel?
That's 13-1. And that one is a type serpentine that's adapted to saline soils, sodic soils and salinity. The teeth are very good for pulling those out. So, dude, there's a seed inside here. This is not good.
So you're trying to get through the husk to the seed?
Yeah, I'm just gonna
It
get
looks like a
seed.
bean.
Yeah.
It looks like a bean.
You'll see it here. You'll
So-
see the embryo.
Dr. Campbell, we have a tree that, like, it's in the corner of our yard and it drops seeds from the squirrels, you know, and we just leave them there, throw them in the corner. And we have these growing all over the place. Can you use these
You
to
can.
graft to?
You can. It's just commercially we tend to try to use turpentines, and I'm going to show you why. Because these seeds are polyembryonic, okay, which means they produce multiple embryos that are genetically identical to the mother. So mangoes and a lot of fruit trees have this ability. They produce plants that are, it's called apomixis, and it is the production of these multiple embryos, all right? So what happens is, in this seed, there's going to be one embryo that is sexual. That's the combination between the pollen and the egg, you know, of the mother and the father. And then you're going to have all these apomictic embryos that are copies of the mother
Within the same seed?
within the same seed. You see, I'm not going to get all of it off, okay? You see multiple, you see all these, pass that around, you see how it's all
Like layers?
layers and all that. Those are different embryos. And those embryos, again, one is sexual and all the others are copies of the mother plant. Now, the problem is, you don't know which one's which. So what we do commercially is you plant those seeds and then we rogue out the big ones and the little ones and try to keep the uniform ones. And you're about 70% correct. So even like big commercial nurseries, things like that, end up with so big commercial nurseries end up with a 30% error rate, basically, in the rootstocks. So, but the other thing about when people plant rootstocks, you always say, well, how do we plant them and everything else? It's always better to get them out of the, like you just did, and you want to plant them on their side and just put a little bit of soil over them, like about that. And that's how then you make a tree like this. Now, if you use stuff from like a Valencia Pride or your
That's
Spring
what
Bells or
I think
anything
that's
like
what
that.
this is. I don't know.
Be surprised
know.
at that size.
I don't know what it is.
All I know is
They're delicious,
it
I
was
know that.
called a dwarf.
It's not
It was called a dwarf
I know, I'm going to
mango.
tell you exactly what it is.
What is it? Yay!
So this is the favorite mango of my childhood.
You can have it.
And this one is named, my dad was the Johnny Appleseed of that mango, and that is now the #1 mango sold in Paris. And it's grown in Reunion Island and in Mauritius, and they fly it in to Paris in season. And if you go to all the patisserie shops and you go around, they sell this, which is a Cogshall.
A Cogshall.
Cogshall. And that is, to me, that's
so
comfort
good.
food.
It's
to
so
me.
delicious.
Yeah. That is the greatest. I love Cogshall.
Mhm.
And if you plant that seed, it's not going to.
That's what they're all growing. That's what's
Right.
dropping.
So they're not. Those are all going to be sexual embryos because they do not produce multiple embryos in this one.
Oh.
So what happens is you can still use them for grafting, but you don't have a uniform reaction because a good rootstock should be uniform because all you're trying to do is get it to produce a replicable effort. So when you're trying to grow trees in a nursery and you're selling trees, you want everything to be the same, right? This one, all the rootstocks will be different. They'll all be different. It's not wrong. It does make them different. So, and by the way, you grew that Cogshall very nicely, by the
Thank
way.
you.
It's nice and clean. And
I didn't do anything to it.
that's why other people
Yeah.
claim, so like,
It's
now,
all the fishite.
He does plant fish heads under it.
All right, there
And
you
those
go.
are the best mangoes from my other house.
There you go.
Lots
So-
of kingfish.
So now I can tell you, there you go. So now I can tell you the story. So and it's because the Cogsall family's from Pine Island, and he was a salvager, the owner of that. So what's another name for a salvager? They're pirates, right?
Yeah,
Those are
yeah.
pirates, right?
Yeah.
So this was, he planted the tree. He used to tell this story all the time, right? That he planted the tree on a cache of pirate gold. And it took up the ruby,
Yeah.
gold,
Yeah.
and the emerald
Colors and-
into the mango tree.
Nice.
And one time I was telling that story in front of a Congress somewhere, and the Israelis told me, they said, "Richard, you're a scientist. How can you say this kind of thing?" And I'm like, "Dude, you are really not a storyteller." And I, what the hell wrong? What's wrong with Israel? So I don't live in Israel, man. It's like, you guys are so boring. Oh, tell the story.
Pirate war.
I know they didn't take up gold, you know, but it's such a good story. Old Mr. Cogsall was quite a character. We always liked him.
Dr. Campbell, the name is actually misspelled in the varietal. The letters between Dr. Fairchild and all the Pine Island people with the family.
Yeah.
What's the main family there? Coon or the Asian?
Mm-hmm.
It's GGE.
Right.
They misspelled it somehow.
GG what?
It's two G's. with an E.
Cogsall with a G. Right.
It's
Right.
one-
Yeah. Yeah, it was alliterated quite a long time ago in the old records of Trek. But it was actually Fairchild who actually sent it to Trek originally with only one G. Because I'll show you the original thing that came from you. Which is interesting, because I do agree with you that the family, because I knew the family.
And they use the last name of the property record.
Mm-hmm. That's true. But it was, a lot of those things get alliterated over time. So,
It's a Hayden seed.
probably, most of the stuff before genetics, we always would try to come up with what things were. I cannot tell you how many things are wrong in that, because you can't really tell. They say, well, the squirrel took this and planted it there,
Right.
So, and nowadays, as they start to go and actually fingerprint these things, they find out so much of this stuff is wrong.